Welcome in, fellow Palworldians. If you're like me, you're addicted to the hottest new survival game on Steam, Palworld. And after putting 30 plus hours into the game, here are 10 or so things I wish I knew when I started playing Palworld. But first, I'm on the road to 1K subs on YouTube. So if you like this content or Destiny 2 content, hit that subscribe button, click the thumbs up like, ring the notification bell to stay notified, and leave a comment below. I do respond to all comments. Also, I do stream 3 days a week on all major streaming platforms, whether it be Kick, Twitch, or right here on YouTube. Come hang out, let's play together. I might even set up a Palworld server soon. Okay guys, let's get into things I wish I knew before I started my first run in Palworld and will help me in subsequent runs. First thing is location. Locating your base is huge in this game, as you need plenty of space to do all the different things and all the technology you'll place around your base. In my original base, I made it inside of a castle, and while it was a nice space and allowed for raids only happen from one direction, it cut off many of the places I was able to build, thus forcing things to be made in very confined areas and parts of the map being cut off. Once I got in higher level and I started building things that I needed to upgrade my base, I realized I needed much more room than I had provided myself. And then I realized that relocating all of those materials to the places that I wanted to put them on a different base was a real big pain. And yes, I could have left my base as a farm or something like that, but it didn't provide me enough area to stay viable in that spot. And remember, when you're choosing a base, you can't build over water and you can't build through objects. So the best bet is to find a big, wide open area, an area that you can build in all areas, build up, build around, and make your space a nice living space to be. It can have something like a stone node or an iron node or some trees in there, and that'll help you get some materials to move along, but don't have your main base in an area with too many things. And when you place your PAL box, they put a blue circle around the area that you can build inside. So the first time you place it, look and see if you'll be able to build and utilize the entire area. The more area, the better, because the more objects you can fit in and you can help perfect the pathing and the ways that your guys move around. I will say though, when you do get more than one base, it's not a bad idea to have just a base with nothing but nodes inside of it, whether it be the ore that's hard to get that you need a lot of for later stages and builds. You could have something like that and just have it there with some food and your guys that are really great at mining or really great at logging in a place like that. That is fine, and that is a really good idea to do. But your initial main base should have a big, wide open area so it's easier to upgrade and have everything going on how you would like it to go. And that leads to my next thing, number 2, is pathing and object placement. The pathing in this game is not always perfect, and they've even said that they're going to update it more and more. There's no way to set a priority on what your PAL does when. So it's best practice to put things in a way that either your PAL will make priority when they leave their bed or they leave the PAL box when you spawn them, so that the closest thing to them is usually what they go to try and work on. This will allow it so the tasks that you want to get done to more likely to happen when you want them done. Now, yes, you can always pick up your PALs and you can throw them at an object that you want to work on, but sometimes they just don't recognize it and don't go working on that for some reason. The furnace seemed to be one that people have a lot of issues with. And what I noticed is in my new base, I put 2 furnaces side by side and they would always work on one and not the other. But when I moved that furnace a little bit, I noticed they started working on the other because the PALs couldn't get to it. Even though it was side by side, had plenty of room, if one was working on one, the other was too close to the other one to work. The other thing that happens too is sometimes you'll put your objects in certain places, and in order for your PALs to get to them, they'll end up climbing on something or get locked in a wall or dug in the ground, and then you have to put them in your PAL box and take them back out to readjust them. So if you spread your objects out or you put it in a way that they can be reached from the front by multiple PALs, then you won't have this issue. Another great thing to do as well is to make sure you have a food station near each of your different stations. So if you have one group of stations on one side and one group of stations on the other side of your map, make sure you have a feed spot beside them. So when it's time to eat, your PAL isn't trekking all the way across the map and then back. Number 3, and this one I wish I was better at the beginning. You look at my map, you'll see not hardly anything on it. And then I started marking, I'm like, oh my gosh, why didn't I do it? My friend was talking to me about it. I was like, why don't you mark your map? I'm like, oh my gosh, why don't I? Marking your map is huge. While bosses appear on your map, things like dungeons, eggs, and nodes do not. So mark every dungeon you see with whatever mark you like. And then next time when you're trying to like, hey, I'm gonna go search for some dungeons and go XP hunting, you will be able to go right to that dungeon. These dungeons aren't always open and they're on rotator, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But this is also great for eggs and nodes. You know that you found that really cool sweet egg over here in this island? Mark it. It'll refresh and come back later on. You found all these ore nodes and you're gonna make your ore farm over by the church? Dude, mark it. That way you can get that ore, that sulfur whenever you need it. It allows you to be able to go get the object you need quickly and come back. So like, instead of being like, where was that at? I don't know. Before talking about bosses and dungeons, this is a main part of this game other than the base building and pal catching, even though you do pal catching in the boss arenas and dungeons. Dungeons are a great source for sulfur. They're a good source for those blue pal nodes. They're good for the ore nodes. They're really good. So you want to go and you want to be empty before you go into a dungeon. You want to have your pickaxe fully ready to go before you go in a dungeon. And you go inside, you fill up on ore, you fill up on sulfur, whatever you need, catch whatever pals you need. Because that's the cool thing. There's always a bunch of pals in the different pathways that you go through these dungeons. Plus, there's syndicate inside skill as well, which you can get money, you can get ancient technology, you can get all different kinds of things, but you can load up on your pals and you will need a lot of pals, which we'll talk about later in a minute. Each dungeon also has the minimum of 2 purple chests in it and a boss. Now, sometimes the boss is super easy, sometimes it's harder, but at the end of the day, it's a boss that gives you a bunch of XP, it gives you ancient technology. The best way to farm XP is through bosses and dungeons. This is also a great place because there's so many pals in a dungeon with the different pathways that you take, that this is an easy way to get that bonus XP you get for catching the pal the first 10 times you catch it, which gaining XP and getting the pals is a win-win situation, because not every pal, even though it's the same, doesn't mean that they're built equally, and I'll show you more of that later. World bosses, once beaten, will come back over time, just like dungeon bosses, but they give you access to some of the most powerful pals in the game. These guys can do it all. They're big, they're bad, they're awesome. They're some of the coolest pals, the giant llama, the Bushido, whether it be the huge woolly mammoth. It's just really, really cool pals that you get. They're really powerful and they're a really good part of your arsenal. Now, the difference between a boss fight and a dungeon is, in a dungeon you go through different caves and pathways and you get to a boss. In a boss fight, you're just dropped in a boss arena, whether it be you're already outside, you just find the boss in the open world, or you teleport to the boss arena. I recommend that you get as many of these as you can at the appropriate level, because catching them gives you a high amount of XP and resources as well. Plus, it gives you a really powerful pal to use. In my opinion, bosses and dungeons are the best source of XP and gains in the game. Now on to number 5. Sometimes pals can be a pain and annoying to catch. Even when you have them really low on health and you're using like a Gigasphere, you might have a 5 or 6% chance to catch them. That's where sneak attacks come in. Sneak attacks are king. They give you a buff of up to 30% of catch probability if you throw the ball from behind and you're not noticed. You can actually catch several lower level pals without ever fighting them. Just sneak up behind them and throw the ball at them. In terms of a bigger enemy fight, you're gonna have them aggroed. You're fighting the giant woolly mammoth and you throw the ball, you're not gonna be able to get that sneak bonus on him. But what you can do is you can get him really low and then back away from the fight. You can't do this on the teleported boss, but you can do it on like the big world boss. Back away from the fight. Even if it's a powerful pal and it's not a boss, you back away from the fight and they become disengaged, the music stops, then sneak up behind him and throw that pal spear at him. You're gonna gain up to a 30% buff to catching them. So I might get in trouble from some fans of another game here. Like the game everyone said this game was inspired by, which it was, you gotta catch them all. Well, it's fun to take out your aggression on the little pals, and sometimes you're just too powerful and you one-shot them, or they didn't do the work you wanted them to do in your base, so you take them and hit them with the meat cleaver. But you get much more XP if you catch a pal than you kill a pal. And for the first 10 that you get a bonus to your XP. Plus, after you get 10, you're like, well, I got my 10. What's the whole point of like keep catching these guys? Like, I got my guy, it's whatever. There's reasons that you want to keep those pals. The first being, once you unlock the pal essence condenser, you can upgrade a pal and their abilities, not their working abilities, but their fighting abilities. So at the very end, to max level one of your pals, it's gonna take up to 32 versions of the original pals. So you're gonna get those as many as possible in order to upgrade. Plus, there's different things, which I'll explain in a moment, with the pals that make one not equal to the other. So you wanna try to get as many as possible so you can get the best pal possible for the situation that you are doing at the time. All right, number 7, and I was kind of alluding to this in number 6, almost all pals have passives. Some are good, some are bad. They can range from being lucky and hardworking to a lazy coward. These things can matter hugely if you need a certain pal to work or to fight. You don't have a pal who doesn't want to fight to be in your party fighting. You don't want a pal who refuses to work to be part of your base that you're trying to build. Some passives, they give you fighting bonuses, some give you work bonuses. So try to find the pals that you want to use and then breed or catch the ones with the best passes of that type that work for you. Thus, the reason why catching so many of them are great. You might have that really good chicken that you want, but you might be a better chicken out there that does better things for you. Constantly look at what your pals do in order to make sure you have the best team available, no matter whether you have them in your base or in your party. And to continue, I've seen some people didn't know this, and even some of my friends didn't know this. You can rename your pals, and I suggest to rename them, because at some point you could have 32 of ℚ𝕚𝕚. Well, how are you gonna know which ℚ𝕚𝕚 is the good one? Do you wanna go through each and every one, or do you wanna name the ones so you know who's who? This way, you don't have to search for them. Oh, I wanna move this one to this base. I wanna move that one to that base. I wanna put this one into fighting. This one's okay, this one's okay, that. So you can actually label them fighter or give them cool names, or you know the named ones are the ones you're gonna use and the non-named ones you're not gonna use. You can rename your pals, and a big reason besides that to name them is that what if somebody gets injured or you want to move them to a different base and you put them in your pal box and then you sort it or whatever it is, and you're like, I had this happen today, which one's which? Oh my gosh, what do I do? Name your pals from the get-go. If you name them and then say you don't want to use this one anymore and you're gonna use this one instead, rename them, you know? Name your pals. It's really, really big, and as you can see on screen, this is how you do it, in case you're not able to do it. And if it's just a PC thing, I apologize, maybe you can't do it on Xbox. Number 9, and this is also different from that other game that this is inspired on, it's weaknesses. Pals don't have multiple weaknesses to multiple elements. A pal is only gonna be weak at one thing and strong at another. Yes, you can get skills that you can teach your pals can do multiple types of things. Yes, your pals can do tree and earth, you know, they can do wind and water, they can do multiple things, but they can only be weak to one thing. So if you're fighting a pal in the world, they're only weak to one thing. All right, and lastly, number 10, technology points, ancient technology points, and ancient civilization parts. You gain technology points as you level up. These points can be used for the ability to craft all kinds of items in your technology tree, from clothing to base building items to workbenches and more. You gain points every time you level, and as you level, your tree expands, allowing you to unlock what you want to be able to build. But don't buy everything available in your technology tree. In your first 20 levels or so, only buy what you need to use for the base at that moment or for what you need. As you get later in levels, there are many crucial things that cost many more points than you had. You're gonna wish you didn't use all of those points in that unique chair set or that wall-mounted houseplant when you were never gonna use it in the first place. Buy things like that at the end when you're out of the major things to buy. As you level, you also earn ancient technology points that allow you to craft things in your tech tree on the right in purple. These are ranging from a food bag to a grappling gun to a hip lantern and more. While the food bag is great and the grappling gun can be clutch, make sure you have enough points to buy that hip lantern when it's available, because this will allow you to better navigate dungeons and at night, thus making everything visible to you while you're trying to do things like find ℂ𝕚𝕃 effigies that allow you to upgrade your pals or upgrade your poke catching abilities. Ancient civilization parts are used to make many of the later items in the game. It's also used to make the stuff you get from ancient technology points. These little guys look like spark plugs. They're used for so many good things, whether it be your mega shield or your metal armor. They're crucial to many builds, as there's many things that you need to build for your base that use them as well, so that makes them a precious resource. Use them wisely. This resource can be gotten from the Syndicate dungeons and bosses, but early on you want to save as many as possible for those crucial moments when you're trying to build that thing for your base that you need to level your base up with. That is it. That is the video. That are 10 things that I wish I knew, and there's so many more things I wish I knew. There might be a second or a third video. Who knows? I'm so excited for Palworld. I'm absolutely loving this game. I just saw their roadmap the other day, and I'm so excited to see these things coming. PvP, raids, more dungeons, more bosses, more pals. It's absolutely phenomenal, and I hope they keep supporting this game because it has taken the world by storm. Don't forget, hit that like, subscribe, thumbs up, leave a comment, say what's up. Tell me what you thought. Tell me what I left out. Tell me what you would have changed. Tell me something that you learned that I didn't learn. Just speak to me. And also come hang out on one of the live streams on the platform you're choosing. And until next time, watch one of the videos on your screen right now. And I will see you next time. Follow me on some else. Peace.